Hey there, today I'm going to be showing you 5 of some of my family's all-time favorite Thanksgiving side dishes. I love these side dishes because they really are so easy to throw together and they're out of this world good, so I hope you enjoy it and let's go get started. We're going to begin today with seriously the best ever mashed potatoes. I have about 4 pounds of golden potatoes right here. I peeled them and I cut them into smaller pieces. I brought the potatoes over to a pot of boiling water and I added them right in there. I'm going to boil these potatoes for about 15 minutes or until they are fork tender. And if you're curious why I'm using golden potatoes, it's because that they do tend to be a lot more creamy than russet potatoes, and I love creamy potatoes, but if you want to, you could use russet potatoes as a substitute. Now I'm just straining our potatoes right now, and I'll set them to the side. In the same pot that we cooked the potatoes in, I added 4 tablespoons of butter, along with a tablespoon of minced garlic, 2 teaspoons of dried rosemary, 3 teaspoons of salt, and 1 teaspoon of pepper. I gave this a stir. Once the butter melted down, I added the potatoes back in there, and I do want to let you know you could always add herbs or subtract herbs to really make these mashed potatoes your own. I'm going to add in our half a cup of milk now, and I'm going to mash these potatoes up. Okay, you guys, these mashed potatoes are so good. Whenever my sister comes over to my house for dinner, she always requests them, and I do want to let you know, cooking the butter and the garlic and the herbs together before you add in the potatoes really enhances the flavor of those ingredients. This cranberry sauce recipe is the only cranberry sauce you will ever need, and it only has 3 ingredients. So to the pot on my stove, I added a cup of sugar and a cup of orange juice. I whisked those 2 ingredients together until the sugar was dissolved. Now I'm going to add in my 12-ounce bag of fresh cranberries. I did rinse my cranberries off before I added them in. And now this is the fun part. We are going to let this simmer for about 12 to 15 minutes on my stove. I did stir it frequently, and the longer you simmer it on the stove, the thicker your cranberry sauce will be. And as you see right here, the cranberries are just bursting open. Don't worry, that's what they're supposed to do. It's kind of cool. But now that I got it to this thickness, I am just going to pour it into a serving bowl, and I'll let it sit in that serving bowl for about 5 minutes. And the longer you let it sit in the serving bowl, the thicker it will be in the end. So just keep that in mind. But here's the finished product. This seriously only has 3 ingredients, and it's some of the best cranberry sauce I have ever had. My entire family loves it for the holidays. Now we're making my favorite fail-proof stuffing recipe. So to begin, I have about 4 ribs of celery right here. I sliced into smaller pieces. Then I diced my 1 onion into small pieces as well. Over to the pot on my stove, I added in a half a cup of butter. Once it melted down, I added those veggies right in there. I'm going to give this a little stir, and then I'm going to add in some seasonings. So just a dash of salt, a dash of rosemary, a dash of pepper, and then a dash of thyme. And then I'm going to give this another stir and cook this on low for about 10 minutes to soften the veggies. I did stir it occasionally while it was simmering. But now that we have our veggies nice and soft, I am going to add them into a large bowl. I'm also going to be adding in a 12-ounce bag of dried bread cubes. Most grocery stores sell dried bread cubes like this at this time of year. And if you're kind of in a rush and don't feel like drying out your own French bread, this is a great way to go. Now I'm going to be adding in my 3 tablespoons of fresh parsley along with my seasonings, 2 teaspoons of dried rosemary, a teaspoon of dried thyme, a teaspoon of pepper, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Next, add in about 3 cups of chicken broth and give this a stir. Be careful while you are stirring it, just because you don't want to crush the bread cubes. After I place the stuffing mixture in my greased 9x13 baking dish, I spread it out. Now over the top, I'm going to be adding about 1/3 cup of cubed butter. I just place that butter all over the top of the stuffing. I'm going to cover this with aluminum foil and bake this in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, I remove the foil and I baked this for an additional 10 minutes. And here is our stuffing. I know a lot of stuffing recipes are long, drawn out, and not super easy to make, but that's why I love this recipe so much, just because you could throw it together in no time at all. It really is a crowd pleaser and it tastes just as good as those complicated stuffing recipes. Now we're getting started on these dinner rolls that come together in less than an hour. So in this bowl, I added my 3/4 cup of water. Next, you'll add in 3/4 cup of milk, followed by 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and then 1/4 cup of sugar, then 1 teaspoon of salt. Microwave this in the microwave for about a minute. After a minute, remove it from the microwave and whisk it all together. You want the sugar to dissolve at this point. Now I'm going to pour it into my electric stand mixer. If you don't have an electric mixer like this, that's fine. You could do it by hand. Then you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast. It might seem like a lot of yeast, but trust the process. These rolls are great. I gave this a whisk and I'm going to let this sit for 10 minutes to activate the yeast. Here we are 10 minutes later. I added in 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to mix this all together for about 5 to 7 minutes. And if your dough is too sticky, just add 1/4 cup of flour in at a time until it becomes nice and elasticy, just like this. I have my large round baking dish right here, or you could use a 9x13 baking dish. I sprayed it with plenty of nonstick spray. Now we're going to be forming our dough into rolls. This makes about 12 rolls, so just roll the dough into balls. Now that all my rolls are in the baking dish, I covered this with a towel and I let it rise in a warm place for about 20 minutes. Here we are 20 minutes later. I removed the towel and I baked this in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 15 to 18 minutes, or until the tops were golden brown. And I like to put some butter on the very tops of the rolls. My entire house was smelling so good. These dinner rolls seriously come together in under an hour and they're so fluffy and delicious. Now we're getting started on this marshmallow topped sweet potato casserole. I have about 6 medium-sized sweet potatoes right here. I peeled them and I cut them into smaller pieces. I'll bring the sweet potatoes over to a large pot of boiling water and just add them right in there. And you're going to boil these sweet potatoes for about 15 minutes or until they become fork tender. While they were boiling, I did stir them occasionally. But once they did become fork tender, I strained them and then I added them into a large bowl. You do want to mash up your sweet potatoes at this point. I'm just using an electric hand mixer because it is a little bit easier to mash them. Then I added in 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of margarine, or you could use butter, 1/4 cup of orange juice, 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. This is really good in this recipe. And then 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Mix this all together. I added the sweet potato mixture into my greased 9x13 baking dish, then I spread it out as even as possible. And since this is marshmallow topped sweet potato casserole, we are going to be adding some mini marshmallows to the top. I used about 7 ounces of those mini marshmallows and I kind of just sprinkled them all over. This baked in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 23 minutes or until the marshmallows on the top were golden. Everybody is going to be devouring this sweet potato casserole if you make it. The filling is just out of this world good. It has so much flavor, and those marshmallows on the top just give it that extra boost of yumminess. I have plenty more videos like this on my channel, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any more in the future. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.